Oh, thanks, everyone. I have two announcements. First, we didn't use ezCater for this meeting, which is why the food never arrived. Also, and I just thought of this, effective immediately, everyone will be paid in wildly volatile cryptocurrency. You're all now billionaires. And now you're broke.
Bad ideas happen when there's no food for the meeting. So make sure it's on time and as ordered from more than 80,000 restaurants. Now, ezCater.
You're rich again. And now you're not.
Order 24/7 on ezcater.com.
The Classic Dad Podcast.
The Classic Dad Podcast.
His advice was, don't get anyone pregnant. It will ruin your life. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Did I ruin his life?
The answer is yes.
And look at this, the great Sebastian Maniscalco on the Classic Dad Podcast.
My father is into my book signing, and people were lined up, and I was signing books, and I was opening up the books, and it was already signed. I go, what's going on? He's signing his own, my books.
The Classic Dad Podcast, an Odyssey original.
Good morning, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Jay. Yeah, I'm up in Nashua, New Hampshire. This is the DCU, the Digital Credit Union golf tournament for kids. I've been a part of this thing for 18 years, believe it or not. And they have raised for our foundation, probably close to $3.5 to $4 million through this wonderful golf tournament. So it's always great to be able to come up here. And it's great to be able to now do the show from up here without too much difficulty, because of what we learned over the pandemic and how we were able to do these things from home. Now we could do it on the road the same way. So I figured, why not do it if I can do it, and look forward to doing more like this if I can do more like this when I'm out doing fundraising and things of that nature. So I'm glad to be a part of it this morning. Unfortunately, it comes after an 8-0 loss to the hands of the Tampa Bay Lightning last night, and that game was over from the moment the puck was dropped. The Lightning were flying all over the place. The Islanders were a disaster defensively. Semyon Varlamov was giving up a ton of rebounds. Not all his fault. There were turnovers in the defensive zone. In hockey games, can get out of hand like this, especially when you're playing a team that is $18 million over the salary cap and has all their great players healthy. And that's what we saw last night from Steven Stamkos and Kucherov and Braden Point. And, of course, Andrei Vasilevsky throwing a shutout, although the Islanders really had a hell of a time trying to get the puck to the net last night. But it'll be a different game come, Wednesday night. This will, the Islanders will show up. I do believe, and I do agree with you, that Matthew Barzal should not be suspended. And the reason I say that is just simply because it seems as if, if a guy like Tom Wilson is not going to get suspended after some of the stuff that he has pulled, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And quite frankly, I don't like what Matthew Barzal did, but when you see what happened before him in front of the net and Pajot in front of the net and the cross checks that Ruda had been throwing, the referees, got to grab a hold of the game. And I never felt like they really grabbed hold of the game. And because the Islanders were chasing all night long, they spent an inordinate amount of time in the penalty box. And, that's part of why the Tampa Bay Lightning scored 8 goals. I mean, you can't spend, as much time in the penalty box as the Islanders did. And I'm talking about the first 2 periods. I'm not talking about the third period. And give them too many opportunities with the man advantage. And that means your best player, Matthew Barzal, doesn't see the ice. And that hurts you offensively. So it was a nightmare performance. There's no question about it. But Barry Trotz, Lou Lamoriello, and this team in particular is built to withstand stuff like this. They're going to have games like this. Every team's going to have a game like this once or twice.
Yeah, I know you're going to have games like this, but Game 5 when the series is tied 2-2 is about the worst time to have it. The only worst time would be if it was an elimination game. Now, I agree. They're not going to get blown out 8-0 at home in an elimination game with their backs up against the wall. That's not going to happen, but it's just shocking to see because the Islanders hadn't played like this the entire season. Even back in the regular season, there wasn't a game this bad, and it was just so disheartening because you're so jacked up for this game. You're thinking this could be the same deal as the Boston Bruins series where you go in Game 5 and then you come back home to the Coliseum and it's rocking Game 6. They didn't even have a shot, and that was so disappointing. And quite frankly, I mean, the more I watch the Barzal thing, I'm thinking Jan Ruda is acting a little bit because we've seen skirmishes like that all the time, guys getting tied up. You want to say, I mean, cross-check to the face is not really what happened in that situation. He goes down in a heap. He leaves the ice. I know he doesn't come back. The game was already decided at that point. I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay and Jan Rutta were trying to get Barzal suspended by the way that he acted in that situation, because he looked totally fine once he got up. I mean, it was like, to me, such a severe reaction. And if the NHL player discipline and player safety comes down on him, that's just going to be pathetic. I mean, you cannot suspend him for a Game 6. You have to act better if you're Barzal, but my God, if he misses a game because of that, that's going to be criminal.
Well, not only he misses a game like that, but the Tampa Bay Lightning remain $18 million over the salary cap. So, I mean, there is a tilted imbalance here because of the way the NHL does their salary cap rules. And I know I've been beating this dead horse, it seems like, for the last 10 days. I have been, but it's a point that has to be made and has to continue to be made because it really is a competitive imbalance. And there's a loophole that I'm not saying that Tampa's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying the NHL has got it wrong. If I were Tampa, I'd be doing the same thing if I could, and trying to keep all my best players together. And when my best player has hip surgery and he's out and he has to rehab, and his salary doesn't count against my salary cap, I understand that, and it allows teams to fill in the void. But in this case, getting that player back, who happens to be one of the best players on the planet, and that player playing at the level that he's playing at, that's where the competitive imbalance, to me, anyway, shows up. And it showed up in Florida, against Florida, showed up against Carolina, and now it's showing up again against the against the Islanders. So I have, as a hockey fan, I have a real problem with how the NHL does this. I don't like it. I can't stand it, and it really does create problems, I think, on the ice. But anyway, be that as it may, as you move forward here, here's the only one thing I would say about Jan Rutta. I don't know. He may have gotten hit in the temple. If he got hit in the temple and he got knocked down and he didn't get up and he didn't come back in, that could be the reason why, because he did take it to the side of the head. I personally do not believe that as a suspendable offense. I do believe it's a finable offense. They want them to keep their sticks down, and Matthew knows that, and I'm sure he feels horrific after the fact. And then I think I'm with you. I'm in the camp where there's a little acting going on here, and John Cooper is not a dope. He's smart. He plays the game. He plays the game in the media. He plays the game with the officials. He's going to be playing a game now with the NHL player safety department as well. So we'll find out something later on today. I would assume by 4 o'clock this afternoon. Well, no, I heard Jerry and Al talking. They thought maybe by noon. I'm thinking by maybe 4 o'clock. But look, I just, if they suspend him, the imbalance is even greater now. But I fully suspect that the Islanders will push this one to the side, and they'll be ready to go Wednesday night. I mean, that's just who the team is. The team does have the DNA to withstand stuff like that. That's why you want to have veterans, and the veterans that I point to are like, Pajot, it is Komarov, it is Matt, it's Cal, it's Casey, it's Nelson, it's Bailey, it's Nick Leddy. I mean, it's Andy Green. I mean, these guys are all battle tested. They've been through this stuff before. They're not going to overreact. I mean, this team is not built, with a weak backbone. I mean, there's a purpose as to why this team is built the way it is, and why Lou Lamoriello built this team the way it is, and that's why it's so hard to beat them in their building. I believe there's going to be a Game 7. I really do, in my heart, and I think the Islanders will come out, and they'll come out flying on Wednesday night.
And that Game 7 would be Friday or Saturday. Do you know?
I would think Friday. I would have to look at the schedule again, but
just Google it.
Yeah,
I know.
could.
Thanks, Al.
I just thought Al would know off the top of his head. That's all. Boomer would know off the top of his head. Other big story yesterday: Jacob deGrom goes out there again. He's brilliant, but we set the over/under at 5 innings. It was right at 5 innings. And it ended up being 70 pitches. And even in this game, still with him not giving up a run, 1 hit, ended up walking 2, there was still a moment where I thought that he was going to come out of the game. And that's in the 3rd inning, where all of a sudden, and I really believe, even more so now, because I agreed with you when you said it, but even more so now, when he throws that slider consistently, that's when he starts feeling things. So he starts throwing that slider. He's missing with it. Then he starts shaking his arm out. He's taking his time. He seems frustrated. He missed 3 in a row that were really like helicopter sliders that were not Jacob deGrom pitches. He ends up walking the pitcher in the third inning. Then he gets Acuna to strike out all on fastballs. He didn't go back to the slider in that inning again and in that at-bat to Acuna. And he goes out and he finishes the game. But it seemed like there was another moment yesterday where he felt something, but he just decided to pitch through it this time as opposed to come out of the game and have everything checked out again. But then, he comes out after 5 innings, 70 pitches, and Luis Rojas said that it was a cautionary decision to take him out of the game. So it's still confusing. And as great as he is, I want to embrace this. I want to enjoy this. I want to love this season that we are seeing, and I am to about a 75% level. But this other 25% is confusing the hell out of me. I mean, he should have pitched 7 innings yesterday, and it should have been his game, and he should have stayed in, and he should have been great. And Lugo comes in, gives a 2-run homer the second that you blink your eyes, and I'm thinking they're going to blow the game. Now, luckily, they did not. But why is he not pitching the entire game yesterday?
All right, so I think it's practical, and I think that Luis Rojas is being honest with us. And we may not agree with the decision, but, he is the manager. He's the one who talks to Sandy Alderson. They talk to, all the baseball people. They are, scared to death to lose this guy like they just lost Joey Lucchesi. It's the last thing. It would be like the worst thing that could ever happen to the Mets. And thank God for Dom Smith coming through with a 2-out big hit to
bases
clear
clearing
the bases.
double.
Thank goodness for that. But I totally understand it. I'm not going to get all worked up over 70 pitches. The fact is, they won the game. He only threw 70 pitches. He's about as economical as he always is. The other thing that I already can't stand and hate is the umpires doing the body cavity search. I cannot sit here and watch this, especially when Jake is not one of those guys, never has been one of those guys, never has been talked about being one of those guys, because he can throw a 102-mile-an-hour fastball and he can throw a 94-mile-an-hour slider. That's why he's so great. And he knows the other thing too, and we always talked about Mariano Rivera when it comes to pitch location and how good he was with his cutter and where he wanted to put it. And even the batter knew where it was going and where it was coming from. They still couldn't hit it, when he was on. That's who Jacob deGrom is. His unbelievable ability to change speeds, his unbelievable ability not to have tipping pitches or not being able to understand whether or not a fastball or a slider is coming, or even a changeup for that matter. That's the brilliance of a great top-end pitcher and the best pitcher in baseball in my eyes. And to have these guys go through this ridiculous exercise before they take the field, baseball looks so stupid at times. And I just, and he happened to be the first one because of the scheduling quirks.
Sure. Yeah, because this was the first day that they were doing it.
It's unbelievable.
So here he is. He's checking his belt, checking the hat. They're looking at the glove as he comes off the mound in the first inning, and he's basically smiling and laughing through it. Then he slaps Tomas Nito's hand as they go into the dugout. It looks pathetic. But Major League Baseball is just, they're chasing their own tail most of the time. They don't know what to do. They don't know what they want the game to look like. And they can't give up on the fact that it was the most popular game at some point in this country's history when it comes to sports, and it isn't anymore. And there's nothing you can do to try to get it back there. It just isn't. It's a regional game now. It's not a national game, and it's still surviving, and guys are getting paid, but it's not surviving the way that it used to be. And whether there's too many home runs or not enough home runs or too many no-hitters or if the game's going to take this long or that long, none of it matters. It doesn't matter. So just stop. It's just the intensity in which baseball tries to thread the needle with every single situation. It's annoying. It is so frustrating. Last year could have been my favorite baseball season ever because it was only 60 freaking games. That's why. So it didn't even have, this long, dragged-out season, and replay sucks. That's another thing. You could make a case that Seth Lugo, and I think Gary Cohen did actually, during the broadcast, that Seth Lugo, as he's standing around as they're waiting for this freaking replay, he sits there and he ends up, it was the Acuna, and it ended up working out for the Mets, with the Acuna foul tip off the bat that was caught that ended up being a strikeout, but he's sitting there through that replay, and then he gets a little bit cold and he ends up giving up a home run right after that. It's tough. It's a tougher watch than it's ever been. We're always going to watch our teams. We're always going to talk about our teams. And the Mets fans and the Yankees fans are always going to be passionate about it. But baseball at this point in history just annoys the hell out of me for stuff like we're talking about today.
Yes, I know.
mean, this guy, and the injury stuff aside for a second, what Jacob deGrom is doing historically is one of the most incredible feats we have seen, if you look at it statistically, in baseball history up until this point. And then he comes off the mound in the first inning, and you got to check this guy for substances. Like, are you trying to sabotage your own league? Like, are you trying to do that?
Yeah. Well, if you have a split in the Major League Baseball Players Association like you do, and where the players can't trust each other, number one, the players collectively can't trust the owners. And then number two, the players themselves don't trust each other. Ugh. So you can understand why it's so frustrating and maddening for the commissioner's office to try to come up with what they consider like a halfway point that at least they can get the players on the same page. But I'll tell you what, if I were a pitcher in baseball right now,
infuriated.
I would be infuriated. I would be furious. And the reason for that, especially if I'm Jacob deGrom, that has never, ever been accused of doing anything. You know, he didn't pitch in Houston when all of a sudden, guys went from also rans to, now potential Hall of Fame pitchers because of their spin rates and whatever they were doing and whatever they were using. Like I said, this pitcher in particular is the pitcher he is because of the speeds and the location domination that he has. So I'm with you. I don't like it. I think it sucks. I think it stinks. The other thing that stinks all of a sudden is the Met offense. They've been shut out, 3 times or 4 times now since last week?
Yep. No, I know. It is really tough to watch. And then you got opportunities like the Dom Smith bases clearing double, as you mentioned. Thank goodness for that, because without that, maybe they score a total of 1 run the entire day. And the opportunities in the 9th inning of game 2, can't get it done, can't get the big hit. It's just, it is tough. When they are like that, it's contagious. When they are offensively inept, it is contagious. And we've seen too much of that from them. But yesterday wasn't a bad day. They're going to have a lot of these doubleheaders because of the way things happened for them early on in the season to catch up. But they're just sort of like treading water right now. I mean, when they were on that winning streak and they got to 10 games over 500, it seems like ever since then it's more of a treading water situation as opposed to distinguishing yourself in the division and pulling away a little bit. But they're still dealing with a gazillion injuries. We find out yesterday, just add more to the pile. Lucchese is now going to most likely be out for the year with the UCL, and quite possibly Tommy John. Gazelman's going to be out for a while. Familia's going to be out for a while. So just as you're seeing Jeff McNeil come back and Conforto maybe come back on that side of things, you got more pressure on the rotation and the pitching staff as a whole with some of these injuries that we find out about yesterday.
One other thing that hopefully we'll get to talk about a little bit this morning, and it is a big thing, and it's a big thing for anybody who cares about what's going on in the NCAA and what is happening with the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court now all of a sudden sees the NCAA. And the Supreme Court ruled, this is unbelievable, ruled 9-0 against the NCAA in a ruling yesterday that is just mind-numbing. And it now is going to send the NCAA into a downward spiral, basically having no jurisdiction. I don't feel like they have any jurisdiction over anybody anymore, and there may be no reason to even have it in place anymore because of these new rules that are coming down. And obviously, I've been talking about this the last couple of days. Because certain states are doing different things, there's going to be major recruiting advantages in those areas and in those states where these players can get paid for their performance off the field. But the Supreme Court just absolutely slammed Mark Emmert's NCAA. I mean, you talk about a sucker punch to the gut, to the chin, you name it. They have now found it against the NCAA and even its antitrust violation. It's scary what's happening. There you go. You smell it?
Yeah.
You can sniff it. You're sniffing it.
Yeah, no, I'm smelling it. 100% Sports Minute coming up at some point? Yes?
You got it, 100%.
Yeah, I knew it was there. I can smell what the booze is cooking.
We can scream all we want. We could scream all we want about whether or not pitchers are using sticky stuff and how the umpires are going after it. The really big news in sports, especially in sports business, happens to be what happened yesterday with the Supreme Court.
Well, good. I hate the NCAA, and I know you do, too. You always call that Mark Emmert in those sports minutes feckless.
Oh.
That is the word you love using. Feckless.
Basically, the presidents of the Power 5 conference are just bitch slapping them all over the place. Honestly, that's what they're doing. They're just taking total control of the entire thing.
Oh, good, because it's a long time coming.
All right, showtime. You ready?
Born ready.
Great. Did you bring the dongle?
What's a dongle?
Never mind. We'll just show them on your laptop.
I was supposed to bring my laptop?
Don't panic. You shared the presentation with me, right?
I forgot.
Well, if you log in, then we can...
My password. I was about to say I forgot my password.
You ordered the food through EasyCater, right?
Yes?
We'll be fine.
Food can make or break a presentation, so make sure you order at EasyCater.com. Individually packaged food delivered right on time. How? EasyCater.
Innovation, resilience, agility. It's how Michigan businesses work together and continue to build the future. Our expertise, talented workforce, and collaborative environment are making a difference now and shaping the future. Join us and make your mark where it matters. Visit michiganbusiness.org/radio to put your plans in motion. That's michiganbusiness.org/radio.
It's the morning show with Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti. Boomer and Gio.
A rough one, Jerry. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Yes, 8-0 was the final. It was not good for the Islanders as they fall behind now 3-2. Here was John Cooper. Well, before we get to John Cooper.
They'll slide it left point to Stamkos.
Oh.
Kwase's Kucherov in front. Point! Score! He has goals in 8 straight playoff games!
Yeah, that was Dave Mishkin, if you weren't sure.
Oh, and it's 8-0 now. Oh, no!
Well, yeah, that was with the next goal. 8-0 would be the final. Steven Stamkos and Alex Killorn, a couple of goals apiece. Here was Cooper, John Cooper, the Lightning head coach, winning that game like that. Crazy.
It's a hard league to score in, especially against that team. I know we threw up 8 tonight, but we hadn't thrown up 8 or I think in 4 games.
Well, they did last night. Andrei Vasilevsky with 21 saves for the shutout win. So now the Islanders come home for a Game 6 tomorrow night. Josh Bailey quickly moving on.
We know the way we need to play to have success. So, this game we're going to put behind us. I think we've played some good games and had some tough games against these guys, and get ready for that.
And as you guys point out, the Matthew Barzal situation, we will find out going forward if there's anything to it. Again, Game 6 tomorrow. Tonight in Phoenix, Game 2, NBA's Western Conference Finals. Suns up 1-0 on the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard will miss the game again with a knee injury. Tyronn Lue says Leonard still trying to help the team out as much as he can.
He just stays engaged. Likes to know the adjustments we're going to make. He likes to know the game plan. So when he's watching the game, he can understand what we're doing good and what we're doing bad.
And he will be ready when and if he does come back. That having been said, Monty Williams said no change in Chris Paul's status, so he is not likely to play.
I thought he was coming back.
It does not look like.
That's what it was trending towards, and now it's
doesn't look like it.
Wow,
no.
okay, so he's not back.
No change in status.
All right.
As you guys are well aware, the Nets season ended Saturday night. GM Sean Marks did speak yesterday, was asked the question, so was the season a failure?
The term failure can be used in a completely different array of circumstances, far more serious than what we just went through. Is it disappointment? Yes, without a doubt. We're going to own it. We're going to grow from it, as Steve mentioned, and we'll be better because of this.
He went the route of there's more bigger issues in the world.
Failure to me is like if you're performing an open heart surgery on a guy and you're supposed to keep him alive, and then you end up killing the guy. And that would be more of a failure than the basketball series here. Losing to the Milwaukee Bucks. They're a good team. They got that guy from Greece. I don't know if you've seen him. He's a big guy. They call him the Freak. So this is not – this is small potatoes. Here, what's going on here in the NBA. In basketball, there's people dying all over the world. You know what I would call a failure is how that virus got out of that lab in China. That's a failure. Whatever doctor let that virus out of that lab, that's a failure. Us losing in 7 games to the Milwaukee Bucks, that's nothing. That's a small-scale problem for us.
for the rest of the world. I mean, how many people died? Hey, Steve Nash, how many people died for coronavirus? Yeah, that's a failure. This is nothing. Bruce Beck, you're next up. Your question, please.
Well played. Well
Yes.
played. So we'll hear from Sean Marks throughout the morning. As for the Mets, they played 2 with the Braves yesterday. In Game 1, a victory.
Pitch. Smith lines it down the right field line. That is a fair ball. Base hit going into the corner. It should clear the bases. Nito is in. McNeil is in. Racing for the plate, VR. He will score without a throw. And on at second with a 3-run double is Dominic Smith. And the Mets have opened up a 4-0 lead.
Yeah, they sure did.
Hi, I'm Howie Rose.
Howie on WCBS 880. The Mets wound up winning that game 4-2. The first part of the double dip. Jacob deGrom the win. 5 innings, 1 hit ball, 6 strikeouts. He's 7-2 now. ERA of 0.50, but just 5 innings. He was asked about his pitch count.
Was it just a case of kind of getting 70 pitches there and everybody deciding that was kind of enough?
Yeah, that's what happened.
That's what happened. He did give more on why he left.
We decided at that 70-pitch mark to say that was enough. Didn't want to overdo it, and talking to Hef and Louie in between, they said that they thought it was enough, and I was like, all right, well, let's be smart.
Hef, of course, Jeremy Hefner. Luis Rojas, his manager, all good.
Definitely a huge day for him to come in and just show that he's okay. And put the team in a position to win the game at the same time.
All right, let me ask you this question, guys. They're going to want him pitching in the All-Star game for the National League. Yeah. No, absolutely not.
Why?
Yeah. Right?
1 inning? If he can't pitch in the All-Star game, then shut it down.
No. I'm like, I don't want to. As much as I love to see my team, and I'm 60 years old. I can't believe I'm saying this. I feel like I'm 10 years old again when Tom Seaver was pitching. I'm like, I want to see my guy out on the mound, much like we saw Matt Harvey start at the All-Star game at Citi Field. I'd love to see it, but I really don't want to see it.
So then you think he's injured then?
Well, obviously, Jerry, he's dealt with 3 different issues on the right side of his body where he throws, whether it be the lat, be the shoulder, or be the elbow. And the last thing I want him to do is try to go out in an All-Star game and throw 105 miles an hour for an inning. I'd rather just have him relax, go get the arm massage, take it easy, go on the beach. I mean, if you want to go to the game and you want to put the uniform on, great. I do not want to see him on the mound in the All-Star. I just don't. I
think it's where it lines up with his throw days and stuff.
But I just feel like, this is Matt Harvey all over again. Like even though he's already accomplished 50 million times more than Matt Harvey has, I'm just saying that right now he's got this thing. They're limiting him to 70 pitches. I don't want him throwing any pitches in an All-Star game. I'm sorry, I don't. Especially one, I don't even know how many viewers are going to watch it because of the moving it out of Atlanta and all that other stuff. I don't want him a part of it. I don't want to see him there. I want to see him. If he's going to tell me he's pitching 5 innings and 70 pitches every time he goes out for the Mets between now and then, the last thing I want him doing is extending himself in an All-Star game. I'm sorry.
So
no.
Jerry's sitting there counting.
I am.
How many starts until the All-Star game you're trying to figure out?
I'm trying to figure, yes.
A lot could change between now and then, too.
For sure.
I mean, he could be completely healthy. He could fall on his regular side day. I mean, if it's like the next day, if he's like it wouldn't be the next day because you got the home run derby and everything else. But, I mean, if it really doesn't make sense or he's feeling something else or he misses a start, it'll be a no-brainer. Generally, decisions like this make themselves. And if there's any way in which he is going to be put at risk, it's not going to happen.
I will tell you this, just my math, which is not usually good, but if I did it correctly, It does look like his final start before the All-Star game would be that Sunday on Jacob deGrom replica day.
Okay, well then he can't
Which would
pitch.
knock him out of the All-Star game anyway.
There'd be no way, so you don't have to worry about it. Jacob deGrom replica jersey day? Is that what it is? Okay.
At Citi Field. Yeah.
Replica jerseys? I mean, come on with these Fugazi
you want to give him authentic jerseys? What do you mind?
These jerseys, these authentic jerseys, they aren't even, I mean, they make 1 million of them.
I don't know, man.
That's the more you make, the cheaper they are. That's the way it works.
We used to go to the game to get a bat that said Frank's Wieners on it. I mean, a replica jersey's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Jerry, I never went to a game to get a Frank Wiener bat. I'm sorry.
You know what I mean.
I mean, whatever, ball day. Give them balls. I mean, like they throw more balls out of games.
Right. That'll go great with some alcohol.
Don't do that.
Well, no, you do that after the game on the way out.
Hand them their balls on their way out.
Okay.
That's the way you do it.
And there'll be some sort of...
So it's one of these T-shirt jerseys. Come on.
I don't know. It could be one of the button-up ones.
I thought Steve Cohen was running this team.
You
what
want to
are
give
we
away
doing?
55,000 authentic jerseys or whatever
Yes,
capacity
100%.
is?
Yeah, you want to. Hey, you want to show the fan base that you're different? Do it that way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is a little different than like having a house that gives away the big candy bars. I mean, that's like what a rich guy does.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I've been there. I know what it's like. I know the pressure.
Pressure of the big candy bar?
It's the pressure of the big candy bar. It's the pressure of the big tip. It's the pressure of just, look, you're the man. You're on Twitter. You got all this freaking money. Start giving it back to the fans a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
So are you a tip shamer, Boomer? Have you tip shamed anybody recently?
No, I don't. No, I mean, if I get lousy service, I'll write it on the
No, I'm
the
talking
check.
about watching somebody else tip and then say that's not enough.
No, I've never done that.
Oh, because I've heard differently. I've heard somebody came to me recently and said that you were tip shaming them.
Really? Anyone on staff?
Yes, it is. If that person would like to come forward, they can right now. It's up to them.
Well, I took a cab or driver. There was no Uber up there in the Berkshires.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a $25 situation. And I said I gave him $40. And he was like, ugh.
What the hell is wrong with that?
Ugh. So I felt tip shamed.
Why? $15 on a $25 bill?
I mean, that guy was probably thrilled with that.
Yes.
I thought it was very good.
I think that's generous, actually.
So, all right. So I do remember this conversation we had. One of the parts of the conversation that Eddie is forgetting about is I asked him, did the guy know who you were? Did he realize that you're a quasi-celebrity because you're on a TV and radio show?
Eddie Scazzeri in New Hampshire?
What was your answer, Eddie?
That he barely knew who you were.
Right. So then I said, okay, well, he doesn't know who you are. So you do what you do and don't worry about it. But if he knew who you were and you were representing our show, that's not enough. I'm sorry.
What am I missing here? What do you want him to do? Pay double fare?
Yeah, why not? I gave double the tip last
You're
night.
rich.
Hey, stop that. Stop saying that. I mean, I work very hard for everything I've ever earned.
No
so
one
I
said
am
you
not
didn't.
going to apologize
I don't know why
for
you're
being successful.
I'm not asking you to apologize.
I work very hard. Don't make it squat.
And you got a free Peloton that you don't use.
Yes, I did. Well, yes.
So anyway, the point being is like so last night, I'm at this dinner the night before this golf tournament here, and I want to go see the Islander game, so we have to leave. And there's really no place. The hotel that we're staying at, the Radisson in Nashua, that looks like it's a castle in Ireland. And it's not, I can tell you that. I was itching all night last night. I wouldn't be surprised if I got bitten by bed bugs, for God's sake.
Yeah, you in these hotels are just do not
God,
work
you have
out.
no idea. By the way, there was a situation where I couldn't check into the hotel yesterday. The guy had the credit card. No, you can't get in. I said, why not? Well, you got to give me your credit card. I said, I have a prepaid credit card on it. No, I'm not letting you in. It's just this one guy behind the counter. So that's a whole nother story. But I ended up waiting like 35 minutes until he figured it out and straightened it out. But no, so we go to a place last night called Smoky Bones up here in
It's
Nashua.
a chain. It's definitely a chain. There's a Smoky Bones off exit 58 of the LIE, I think, right next to
there is? I didn't know that.
Extended
I tell
Stay
you.
America or something.
Right,
Yeah.
it was right next to an Olive Garden, so I go into Smoky Bones.
You went to a Smoky Bones.
Right.
Oh, my God.
But it was awesome. They had TVs everywhere, so it was great. They had the game on last night. Although the color on the TVs was horrific. I don't know. It looked like the Lightning were wearing black and the Islanders were wearing purple and green. So it was off. But they had the game on, so it was great. So there was a nice gal behind the bar. Me and my buddy Bob were there, and we're watching the game. I'm saying to myself, these people are working. They could not be working if they choose to and be accepting this, whatever money that the government's handing out now. And I feel like they want to work, so they're going to get a tip. So I doubled the tip last night.
That's very nice of you. Yes, and that's still going on, by the way. A place I go to all the time in the summer,
guy who owns his name's JT. The restaurant is JT's on the Bay. He's normally there. He's like walking around. He's talking to people. And I look back, and he's there in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He's like frying up stuff, and he comes out to say hello. I said, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, I can't get anybody to work.
Not until September.
It's really unbelievable.
He goes, I'm back there. I mean, it was Father's Day too, by the way, and he's got kids, and he's back there cooking because he can't find anybody to work.
Yep,
it's insanity.
My son just started working at a restaurant, and he says it's brutal. There's not enough help.
Yeah, it sucks. That is a shame, especially because everybody's going out to eat again.
Yes.
So you and a Smoky Bones. I know, like 3 years from now, we're going to get a phone call. A guy going, "Hey, Boomer, I saw you in that Smoky Bones up in New Hampshire. I don't know if you remember or not."
I got to tell you, the pulled pork sandwich is pretty damn good, man.
Yeah, they do a nice job over there.
I think tonight before I go back, I'm going to go to the Olive Garden and get some Italian food,
and you get the endless salad.
Yeah,
right?
Breadsticks.
That's it. Breadsticks and salad. Make sure you get some soup too.
I mean, boys, this is Nashua, man. This is what's up here, man.
You cannot go to Olive Garden.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
No,
you
nothing
can't.
wrong with Olive Garden.
You can't.
Yes, you can.
He eats at the best Italian restaurants in the world. Cipollini, Tutto Il Giorno. You can't get an endless breadstick basket at Olive Garden in New Hampshire. You can't.
No, you can't.
I'm sorry.
Yes, you can.
You can't. There's got to be some restaurant up there that's like the local staple. There has to be. It can't just be...
There's actually a very good Chinese food restaurant within maybe 100 yards of the entrance to this golf course.
Okay, there you go.
And it's really good. I went there last year. It was really, really good. But it was closed last night when we were looking for the game. And obviously, I don't think they would have had the game on, so we had to find a sports bar, if you will. So
enter
Smoky Bones it was,
Smoky
baby.
Bones.
Just quickly, you got Marcus Stroman, Charlie Morton tonight. Yankees take on the Royals tonight. Garrett Cole and Brady Singer. The starts there on the Fan at 6:25. And also of note, Raiders defensive end Carl Nassib becomes the first active NFL player to come out as gay. He did that on an Instagram post yesterday, and a lot more to go with the NFL next hour.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jerry.
This is Peacock. I love it! It's streaming your favorite shows, movies, live sports, breaking news, exclusive originals. It's The Office.
That's what she said.
Chrisley Knows Best.
It's gonna be Todd's Way or the Highway.
And Peacock original shows like Punky Brewster.
Holy macanoli.
So whether you're in the mood for every live WWE pay-per-view or every episode of Law & Order SVU, Peacock's got you covered. Peacock. Watch for free, upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com.
It's the morning show with Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti. Boomer and Gio.
Defensive lineman Carl Nassib of the Las Vegas Raiders came out as gay on his Instagram page. He's the first active NFL player to do so. There was the Michael Sam story as with the draft and then him being on a team and the Rams, and he didn't really make it as an NFL player, and people could talk about what the reasons were going on there, if it had anything to do with it, that he came out. Who knows? That's history now. But Carl Nassib is someone who is known. He has played. He has started. He was a Hard Knocks star when the Cleveland Browns had Hard Knocks, where he was up on the whiteboard explaining financial things to guys, explaining how much time they waste on Instagram. So when I saw his name yesterday, I immediately remembered the Hard Knocks star that he was. And I think it's great. He's also donating $100,000 to the fund that helps out LGBTQ youth and suicide prevention. So, and he also said in that video, listen, if anybody knows me, I'm not doing this for attention. I'm doing this because I want someone, out there to look at me, and maybe if they're having a tough time and thinking about it, depressed and where their life is going, that I want them to feel acceptance by this, and I think I can help in that way. And I thought it was very brave, and I thought it was the right way to do it on social media. And I'm sure there's other gay players in the NFL that have not come out. I'm sure there's been lots in the past as well, and Carl Nassib took that step. And we'll see where it goes from here as far as acceptance. I hope it's great. I hope it's every NFL player is totally fine with it in the locker room, but I'm not that naive to think that. There were a few that came out. Saquon Barkley, his teammate at Penn State, he came out and said, great job, J.J. Watt did, but it wasn't like 90% of the NFL players ran to Twitter to say, congratulations, we're with you. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a long time coming. And Carl Nassib, good for him yesterday.
Have you ever had anybody in your life come out to you personally and say something like this to you?
Sure, yeah. Both in my personal life and at work as well. It was a guy who I was working with who was one of my producers at Pittsburgh, and it was, Sports Talk Radio is also a very macho environment, so that was a little bit of a tough thing for him to come forward and do, and I had all the respect in the world for him.
Yeah, so there is a reputation that you would think that the NFL has, but then when you see guys like Saquon Barkley and J.J. Watt, two of the best players that the league has to offer, two of the best personalities that the league has to offer, come out and offer their support to Carl Nassib, it kind of shows you who the NFL is and always has been. I think Roger Goodell came out and said, we want to thank Carl Nassib for being courageously brave, and I'm paraphrasing the words. And I'm thinking, Roger, you should have more understanding of what your league is like and who your players in that league are. There are a lot of players, and like the initial question that I asked you, I've had a number of people in my life come out to me, and I just said, well, it doesn't change the way I think about you. I love you no matter what. It's if it's a weight off of your shoulders, and you feel like you needed to get that weight off of your shoulders, and you needed to come out like Carl Nassib said that he did it, and he was doing it for other people, then I'm 100% on board for the reason that he came out. So it's not that I believe that it now relieves him of the enormous burden that I think that he was putting on himself because of the reputation, the thought that, every man in a locker room is not going to buy into having a gay man in that locker room with them. That is untrue. That is totally untrue. Patrick Mahomes once said, and I've said this many times, if society were a reflection of a locker room, we'd be a much better society, because when you are all pulling for the same thing and wearing the same uniform, you tend to really understand who each other is, and you give great reverence for each other's personality and livelihood and who they are as individuals. And that's why none of the reaction by the players is shocking to me at all. That's exactly the reaction that I would have expected, that they are going to support one of their own, much like NBA players will, much like Major League Baseball players will, and much like hockey players will. So are there going to be players in these locker rooms that, are not going to like this? It's society. It's a reflection of society.
There's going to be some of the very religious ones who are going to probably say something, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever say anything. They won't say anything because they'll be too afraid to say something. But the far majority of the locker rooms, of the players, have come miles and miles and miles from where the Neanderthal players were, or where we were as a league. So I think Roger's statement to me doesn't really reflect who the players are in the league and how so many players, probably in their own personal lives, have people like Carl Nassib in their lives that live that way and want to be that way and need to be that way and should be that way and should be supported. So, I do agree with you when you do say that there's got to be a day sooner or later where we just got to stop talking about it, where it's just accepted and every person should be accepted for who they are. That's the most important thing.
Sure, of course, and Carl Nassib doing this is taking a step towards that, and there has to be more. I mean, it was funny to me that people, automatically, even in the Goodell statement, we want to get to a point where, this isn't news. Well, the reason why it's still news is this is the first active player in the NFL to come out. So we can't get to normalcy until it happens at least once.
Yeah, I know, but the whole Sam issue from a few years back, I think was normalized things, and it's number one, it's not a distraction to anybody. By the way, and I love what John Gruden said. John Gruden came out. I got to find the quote, and he basically said, I learned a long time ago what makes a man different is what makes him great. And he's the head coach of the team where the player came out. And that is about as supportive a statement as you can get regarding anybody's situation. And for me, anybody that claims that there's some sort of distraction here, it's asinine. And the fact of the matter, he is a highly paid, good football player that will be totally embraced by his team and by other players in the league. And even those players that you would consider on the right of the religious side of things, will be accepting. Everybody has to be accepting, or you can't play, or your team cannot function. And the far majority of players will support him. The far majority of everybody out of the league, like us that cover the league, are going to support him. And what I admire most about what he is doing here is that he may be helping others cope with what they believe is an issue in their life that, may cause them to take their life. And I hope that shouldn't be the case.
Right, and what Carl Nassib did should help that, and I think will help that. Now, I remember with the Michael Sam thing, that, all those discussions came back up. I remember taking phone calls at the time of, people with the thought process of how is he going to be able to shower in the locker room. I remember Tony Dungy came out, high-profile NFL Super Bowl winning coach, and said that he wouldn't draft him because he was gay. So that didn't exactly go over all that well, and he was out of the league sooner than later. And this was a guy who had a big college career. So, I mean, that to me is a different story altogether. But I think what's going on here with Carl Nassib should be different. I mean, the world has changed in many ways since then, and I believe that Carl Nassib also has, there's a lot of players he's already played with. They know who he is. It shouldn't change the way they think about him if they didn't know already. And I think that this is a step, hopefully, forward for more players who are active professional athletes who are also gay to come out, because there's others. There's definitely others.
Oh, sure there are. I mean, and look, if I'm just telling those players that the far majority of their teammates will obviously have a reaction initially, like most people do. It will be a reaction, oh, okay, I wasn't really that surprised in the first place.
Right.
So if you're happy, I'm happy. And you need to be you. Everybody needs to be who they are, and they shouldn't feel the need. I see the thing that I have, especially with the people that have come out in my life, I stand up, I hug them, and I tell them I love you just as much today as I did 5 minutes ago before you even told me this. This does not have any impact on the way that I feel about you as a friend, as a human being, and somebody that I believe now, hopefully, if this makes you feel better and takes whatever pressure you have felt like you've had on yourself and you've gotten rid of it, then that's the most important thing, because you need to live your life the way that you want to live it.
Yeah, and I also think, one of the sadder things that you can see is someone who has to hide who they are and feels like they cannot tell you who they are for fear of backlash and have to live in fear like that. I mean, I think that's horrible. So the fact that, Carl Nassib now, as you mentioned, has that weight off his shoulders, I think it's a great thing for him. And he's going to be a role model to a lot of people who play sports, who don't play sports, because it is certainly, I mean, say what you want about where we are socially today in America. I still think it's a very courageous thing in what he did, and the fact that he's an NFL football player.
I think about the summer of social justice, which was the summer that we just had come through, the 2020 summer. And what people were asking at that point in time were people to listen, just to hear the stories. And I told you I was in a locker room for 14 NFL seasons, so I heard a lot of the same stories that were, coming out last summer. And I understand the frustrations and the hardships, and I felt bad for a lot of my teammates back when I played with them. And when I think about this, I think, if you want to be accepting of all things, and you want to understand a person's life story and where they've come from, who they are, and what they truly are in their heart, then you have to have an open mind in all regardless of whether you're Tony Dungy and you have a inherent bias against something like this, or you're just a basic human being and everybody has rights and everybody should have rights. And that's why a guy like Carl Nassib, I guess in some ways is a trailblazer. There's no question about it. Somebody had to be first. And I think he came out, and the way that he said it and the way that he put it out there, he's proud, and I'm happy for him. I really am. I'm really totally stoked for him, and hopefully he has had a major impact on people who love the NFL, who may be in the same situation that he found himself in.
Absolutely, 100% correct.
This is Peacock. I love it! It's streaming your favorite shows, movies, live sports, breaking news, exclusive originals. It's The Office.
That's what she said.
Chrisley Knows Best.
It's gonna be Todd's Way or the Highway.
And Peacock original shows like Punky Brewster.
Holy macanoli.
So whether you're in the mood for every live WWE pay-per-view or every episode of Law & Order SVU, Peacock's got you covered. Peacock. Watch for free. Upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com.
It's the morning show with Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti. Boomer and Gio.
Oh, thanks, everyone. I have two announcements. First, we didn't use EasyCater for this meeting, which is why the food never arrived. Also, and I just thought of this, effective immediately, everyone will be paid in wildly volatile cryptocurrency. You're all now billionaires. And now you're broke.
Bad ideas happen when there's no food for the meeting. So make sure it's on time and as ordered from more than 80,000 restaurants. Now, EasyCater.
You're rich again. And now you're not.
Order 24/7 on EasyCater.com.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.